Okay folks, I think this is going to be my first ever how-to video. I'm going to give you kind of my designs as I build this, but with the understanding that it is a custom installation. Some of the variables, some things will be variable, so if you want to try and replicate what I'm doing, you're going to have to kind of take some measurements and do some calculations, but I'll kind of go through that as I work on it. So this is a how-to for building a very large square foot garden planter. So let me go ahead and get some lumber and we'll get started. Your needs may vary a little bit from what I've got here. In my particular case, I have 2, 3, 4, 5 of these 2x4s. They're basically 8-foot 2x4s, although it's about 50 cents cheaper if you get the 92.5 inch instead of the 96 inch. So it's not really 8 feet, but it's a little bit cheaper, and as it turns out, I figured out how I could do all the cutting so that this would actually work in my favor. That's 5 2x4s, about 8 feet long, and 10 fence boards, 6 foot long, 5.5 inch wide, and 5/8 of an inch thick. So now what we're going to do is put some of the fence boards together so we can take a measurement and figure something out. Okay folks, it's the next morning, and I've already realized that I'm short a couple of pieces of wood. Turned out it's the fence boards that I'm actually short on, but I'll cover that when I get around to it. I've already gone and picked up more wood, so we're good there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building the actual table. And so what I've done is I've actually marked, I've taken one of the 4-foot wide, what I was calling the horizontal supports. And I don't know how well I can show you this. I've got a couple of pencil marks in there. Basically what I'm going to end up doing here is there's actually 2 kinds of horizontal supports, but we've got this which is going to run along the wall, not exactly in this position, and then I've got the other 2x4s which are going to run perpendicular to that. So I've just basically mounted this at the top of the wall because it's going to be really easy to actually screw these pieces together. Okay, well, this should take a little bit less imagination now. So as you can start to see, we've got one piece on the outside. We're going to have another piece on the inside forming kind of a clamp. I got one leg sort of standing it up so I could actually show this to you. But that shows you how I cut the legs. There's actually more pieces to that leg than just the one. So it's going to be a fairly beefy leg, just because I'm going to pile so much dirt in there. Realistically, when I'm done with this thing, it'll probably be so strong I could stand up on it, and I'm not a lightweight. Okay, now you can get a little bit better view of what I'm trying to do. Don't mind the fact that there's one in the middle that's sticking forward. There is actually another horizontal brace that will go underneath it near the front. But it kind of gives you an idea. Let me see if I can actually step out here. I was trying to give you the whole picture, which you can kind of see. So now what we've got one on either side of the wall, clamping it to the wall, but it's not actually screwed into the wall or anything. That's literally just a pressure fit, friction fit, if you will. So then we've got 2 legs, but they're actually going to get beefier than that. Okay, this is the left leg. It's slightly cockeyed, but you can see basically I'm going to have 2 verticals, and then I'm going to have a horizontal right where this little piece is here. This is actually just a scrap that I'm using to do the spacing. I'm going to take one of the 4-foot horizontals, and run it all the way across to the far end. So each leg is doubled up, and it's going to have the same arrangement on the bottom too, which will make these incredibly beefy and barely able to move with all the weight on top of them. Granted, I could probably put a brace from the wall to the leg, which would keep me from being able to kick it. But anyway, so here's a little tip. You can use a scrap of wood to do your spacing. Okay folks, there's the entire frame, and here's what I kept talking about the legs being beefier. I've basically got 2 verticals, and I've got a horizontal running across, and that is then attached. It's actually screwed on. I'm using deck screws. So there you go. That's what the frame looks like. Now we'll put a top on it. Okay, this is a little bit of a preview of what the tabletop will end up looking like. Of course, I haven't cut the ends off of it. I got to cut it all to fit, but that kind of gives you an idea. That's just the tabletop. You won't actually see that top once everything's built, but it gives you an idea. Okay folks, so the table is now done. Now we're going to add a little decoration to it, which sort of a skirt around the bottom. Okay, it's been a little while longer. I've done a bunch of cutting, a little bit of mounting, took a break. But now you can kind of see that there's a skirt board running around. Okay folks, it's just past 4 p.m. I've finished pre-cutting all the wood, at least I hope I have. Let's kind of go through the pieces and sort of give you an idea what's going on. Now these are the front and back pieces, much like the skirt board on the front here. And there's also a corresponding piece on the back already. So I got 4 of these left. They're basically going to come up, one more here and then one more on top of that. These are not just 48 inches but 48 plus 5/8 on each side to account for the 5/8 for the side pieces. These are the side pieces. I've mounted one more up there, so there's 2 of them on the right and there's only the one for the skirt on the left. So I've got 3 pieces remaining to go up. Also, I should note that instead of just simply cutting these 22 inches to match the top, because I have the brick wall there, I have to actually cut it short by a little bit. I'm probably going to have to put a scrap in over there, but I can do that later. That takes care of the side pieces. Then, for the inside, we got 2 more. These are actually 48 inches. These are going to run right down the middle along this particular line. It's going to be one here and then one up above it. And then joining the front to the middle and the middle to the back are going to be these here, 12 of them. Finally, in order to actually join the fence boards together at the upper levels, I need these. I'm basically going to put them like that, and then I can join one down below. That will join in there, and it can screw into that. And then correspondingly, there'll be the side piece here. That can screw into the 2x4. And then if I stack 2 on top of each other, but just to give you an idea, there you go, and it's just under the top there, that 2x4, 2x3 is just below the top. I'm going to fill with dirt all the way to the top. Now it also turns out, since you can see this piece is not actually at the tabletop height, it's a little below the table. That's what, a little over, just a hair over 2 inches below. That means that when I stack 2 of these in the middle, it's going to stick up 2 inches proud of what's around the outside, around the perimeter. Well, I'm looking at that at this point as a feature. If I fill in the soil up to 2 inches below this, then I have a perfect place where I can actually attach some kind of labeling so I know what's in the planting beds. So, I took a shortcoming and turned it into a feature. That's it for that. I'm going to start assembling and I'll give you some updates as I go along. Okay, I've got the first level of the skirt around on the back and on the sides. Then I'm going to do the rest of that, and then I'll start filling it in and come up the front. Okay, it's now 5:15. I've gotten this far. You can kind of see the internal structure, what I'm doing here. So I've got these cross pieces. This will continue to build up. And I still haven't done the front, but I'm figuring that I didn't put the front panels on because it'd be a lot easier to put all of that in without the front panels, and I'll just put them on last. Okay folks, it's the next morning, and I came out and I started building in between the clouds and the sun. So I started piecing it together. I got the middle together now, got some pieces up on the outside. Now you might be able to see the sun starting to hit it a little stronger. So now I'm going to try and assemble the front and give you a few pictures as I go. So no sooner did I get started than I realized a bit of a problem. It's going to be really difficult to try and get up over the top of this without going with a ladder outside and everything else, over the top here, to get in behind to try and drill in so I can support these cross pieces. Well, what I decided to do is I'll put a couple of screws on one side as sticking out a little bit, and then another one counter on this side, so it forms sort of a clamp. Ultimately, these will be screwed into the front piece, but that just sort of creates a clamp so it won't move around. And once I get the dirt in there, that'll pretty much hold it in there too. Okay, there it is folks, the finished product. minus the dirt and the actual plants, unless I decide to line it. It kind of gives you an idea. Each one of these, with the current design, I did some calculations and it basically worked out that I think each one of these little cavities works out to about 76% of a cubic foot. That's kind of what it all looks like. That's pretty much the whole project as far as the wood.